Today, for the first time, we are hearing from the family of the man seen being dragged off that United Airlines plane Sunday in Chicago.
What happened to my dad should have never happened to any human being, regardless of the circumstance. We were horrified and shocked and sickened to see what had happened to him. We hope that in the future, nothing like this happens again.
Being dragged down the aisle was more horrifying and harrowing than what he experienced in leaving Vietnam. Are we going to just continue to be treated like cattle, bullied?
United responding to this morning's news conference in a statement. The company says, quote, "This horrible situation has provided a harsh learning experience from which we will take immediate concrete action." Now, among the actions United says it's taking, limiting the scope in which officers can remove passengers. So saying that we will only call officers on board to escort a passenger off if there is cause for concern involving safety or security. They're also going to review and make changes to their crew movement policy, as well as incentive programs. The embattled airline says it will improve employee training to put customers first and says that those policy changes will be in place by the end of this month. As for the passenger at the center of this incident, Dr. David Dow, his attorney, says his injuries are substantial and that he will need reconstructive surgery. Attorney Thomas Demetrio says the doctor suffered a concussion, broken nose, sinus damage, and also lost 2 front teeth. Demetrio says the family is most concerned, though, about the concussion and possible long-term damage. He says Dr. Dow has no recollection of running back onto the plane after initially being dragged off because of that concussion. Dow was released from the hospital late last night. His daughter says he is recovering. We have also learned that 2 Chicago aviation officers involved in Sunday's incident have been placed on leave. You may recall a 3rd officer was actually put on leave Tuesday. United, meantime, is offering to refund all the passengers the cost of their tickets who were ticketed on Flight 3411. Joining us now on the story, CNN aviation correspondent Renee Marsh. But Renee, when it comes to that refund, you have some breaking news on that part of the story. Not as cut and dry as it sounds.
Right, not as cut and dry. There are some strings attached. They sent this email to people who were on board that flight, United Express Flight 341, essentially saying that they were offering these reimbursements. However, if a person wanted to take advantage of that, they had to agree not to sue the airline. As part of this email that CNN was able to obtain, it said that acceptance of travel certificate you release United, the operating carrier, and their respective employees, agents, and representatives from any and all liability. You know, we spoke to one aviation attorney today who said, of course, this is a protective move. They do want to stop the bleeding. We heard earlier today Mr. Dow's attorney hinting that they are thinking about suing, and what they don't want is a situation where multiple people are filing lawsuits as a result of this. So a protective move, but when you look at this from the PR standpoint, that it took 3 days for the CEO to come out and apologize directly to Mr. Dow, and just the way they handled this. And then when they finally seemed like they were getting their tone right as it relates to PR, you know, there are the strings attached. They can get these reimbursements only if they don't sue.
And that is the thing that has some people scratching their heads. Renee Marsh, appreciate the update. Thank you.
Sure.
As we dive a little deeper, we're joined via Skype by the International President for the Association of Flight Attendants, Sara Nelson. She became a flight attendant 20 years ago. Here in the New York studio, HLN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson. Great to have both of you with us on the story today. Joey, when we look at this latest development, because we learned about this caveat in that email that Renee obtained from one of the passengers, I understand from a legal perspective, if you are the counsel for United Airlines, you say, look, let's limit the damage here. Let's put this in. From the PR standpoint, we get it too. Doesn't look so hot. What if you, though, what if one of your clients was on that plane, Joey? What would you tell them?
Well, listen, it depends where they were relative to what occurred. But this is a horrific incident by all accounts. And the person, Dr. Diao, who suffered the injuries, he has, of course, the biggest and largest claim on multiple theories. Breach of the contract, he expected to go where he wanted to go after traveling internationally. He was assaulted. There was battery. But there's also this thing, Erica, called intentional infliction of emotional distress. When we think about damages, we think about damages and injuries that you suffer, broken bones, in his case, the teeth and everything else. But there are those other damages, and this goes directly to your question of me with regard to the other passengers. They are emotional damages, and to the extent that you have to witness that, you have to endure that as another passenger, the extreme and outrageous conduct of someone being pulled off a plane, people with their families, people with their children, people who they preach, right? You preach to your children, Erica. This is not what we live in. This is not how life's supposed to be. And so to the extent that the other passengers may have claims, you're going to more along the lines of these emotional type ailments as opposed to what Dr. Diao suffered from, which is both emotional and physical.
We look at some of these changes, Sarah, that United has said it's going to put in place, reviewing a lot of its procedures, that they're going to get all this done by April 30th. Are you confident those changes will be in place by April 30th and that they will have an impact?
Yes, so I will tell you, over a year ago, before Oscar Munoz came to the property, United was a very difficult place to go to work. Morale was very low, and there wasn't really a vision moving forward. My experience, and I'm a union leader, so I'm typically incredibly critical of corporate America and executives, but my experience with Oscar Munoz is that he is a rare breed. And he has turned United Airlines around in a very short time in the midst of suffering a massive heart attack and heart transplant. And he dove right in immediately after that and held people accountable. And it has been a rebuilding of United Airlines that is causing flight attendants across the industry to have "I stand with Oscar" as their profile picture on Facebook. We believe very strongly, because of the actions that he has taken up till now, that he takes these things seriously, he takes them personally, he will get down to the root cause, he will hold people accountable, and he'll make those changes. And I can say that with complete confidence because of the way that he has run the airline over the last year, completely turning it around. I'll also tell you that after incidents on planes, he will call flight attendants directly and check in on them, make sure they have what they need, hear directly from them about the incident so he can incorporate that in giving instruction to the rest of his team to make sure that United is running better. And so I have every confidence that he's going to do what he said. All of us recognize and empathize with the Dow family, Mr. Dow. This was a horrific incident. It never should have happened. Everyone recognizes that. And I believe that Oscar Munoz will make sure that it never does again.
One of the things
I should also note, though, that this was a Republic flight. So part of this is dealing with a subcontractor. Brian Bedford is the CEO of Republic, although Oscar Munoz has taken full responsibility for this, even though it was also the Chicago Aviation Security people who created the violent issue in the first place.
Well, and we should point out, as we stated, that the officers have been put on leave who dragged Dr. Dow off the plane. The attorney said something interesting about ejecting a passenger. I want to take a listen to that part of the press conference.
If you're going to eject a passenger, under no circumstances can it be done with unreasonable force or violence. That's the law.
That's the law, says the attorney. There's also video that we have, though, of Dr. Dow saying he's not going to leave. They're going to have to drag him off. So, Joey, when you put those two things together, A, is it legal? B, how do those comments from Dr. Dow play in?
Very briefly, there are regulations which say that you can't interfere as a passenger with the crew. However, everything in life, Erica, has to be looked at from the examination of what's reasonable, what's proper. You're sitting on a jury. Is this what you expect and anticipate when you are a ticketed passenger and you board a plane, to be ripped off it in the fashion that he was? The answer is no. And to that regard, I think that's where you'll see significant damages. It just doesn't resonate. We are so used to getting, airlines abusing us that I think ultimately the public is not sympathizing with United, and a jury would not either. I think they would sympathize with Dr. Diao and those passengers who were there who had to witness this tormented man being pulled off the plane.
Joey Jackson, Sarah Nelson, great to have both of you with us and to have your perspective today. Thank you.
Thank you.